Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So we are now just 2 days away from the 2025 draft lottery. And after that, I'm going to have some kind of mock draft. But before that, I'm doing my updated top 30 prospects in the NHL. I've been building this out the last 5 or 6 months, going from 10 to 15 to 20 to 25 to now 30 by the week of the draft. I'll probably do a full top 50. And yeah, this is an interesting draft. Definitely not as good as 2024. For sure not better than 2023. I think it is better than 2022. And when looking at this draft, I think there's definitely identifiable tiers in my opinion. There is a top 2. Don't think I'm spoiling anything with that. Then 3 through 7 is kind of malleable. 8 through 13, 14, I think that's another tier. And then after that, it's kind of just up in the air. You guys might crucify me for someone that you think's the 17th best prospect. I might have them 29th or something. It's up in the air. I need to watch these guys more, especially once the NHL playoffs start to dwindle down. That's really when I start diving into these things. But I have started watching some of these guys. So without further ado, let's get into it. And in first right now, and still in first, I got Matthew Schaefer. I put him here in early December before his unfortunate injury, but I think that he did prove enough. Although last year the point totals wasn't that impressive at the OHL level, 17 points in 56 games, the tape was still very good. And coming into this season, he had a lot to prove, but he proved a lot. 22 points in 17 OHL games after dealing with mono at the start of the season, and he looked like Canada's just straight up best player in the 4 periods of hockey that he played for at the World Juniors. 6'2", so damn good both ways of the ice, high IQ, really cares about it on the defensive end. And I think that he can be a slightly worse Jake Sanderson, slightly worse kind of Miro Heiskanen. Maybe Miro Heiskanen is a little bit better. Miro Heiskanen is one of the best defensive defensemen in the NHL, but I guess I would say kind of Jake Sanderson, a Jake Sanderson light. And I think Jake Sanderson is going to be an eventual top 8 defenseman in the NHL. So I think Schaefer can be a legit number 1. Will he ever reach those heights of being a top 10 defenseman that I think Sanderson will? Not so sure, but yeah, definitely worthy of a first round pick. And I think a number 1 defenseman. Going forward at number 2, also no shock here. I'm going with James. No, I'm kidding. You probably were just shocked for a second. I'm going with Michael Misa, one of the most impressive OHL draft years of the 21st century, point blank period, up there with Patrick Kane and Connor McDavid with 62 goals, 72 assists, 134 points in 65 games, playing with my boy Zane Parekh as well. Dominant regular season. Did struggle a little bit in the playoffs, only 3 points in 4 games. But yeah, he just does everything at an extremely high level. Not sure he does anything elite, next level, where I think he's going to be a top 10, top 15 player in the NHL. But I think he can be a legit number 1 center for a very long time. An 80, 85 point guy. Maybe not a true franchise player, but you have 2 kind of players of Michael Misa's caliber, 2 stars, and you can kind of make it work. If you need a number 1 center, you can definitely, I would understand taking him over Schaefer, even though I do have Schaefer number 1. It's not night and day difference. He's already 6'1", 180, 185 pounds. It's not like he's undersized by any means. Just a damn good prospect that should be a number 1 center for a long time in the NHL. At number 3, it starts to get a little bit controversial. I said a month ago I had a hot take regarding this draft, and right now my number 3 prospect is Caleb Desnoyers. I know that might be crazy. Everybody has Frundell, Hagen's, Martone, Jake OBrien soaring up the charts. I really like Desnoyers, and I had this a month ago before he dominated the QMJHL playoffs with 24 points in 13 games. Had a productive regular season as well, 80 points in 54 games, and it's the overall 2-way game. While on top of the fact, I think that he does have the skill. You could say that maybe those other guys have a little bit more high-end playmaking ability, but I still think Desnoyers has a lot of that. And at 6'2", what he brings to the table defensively, he seems to always be in the right position. His body control is very impressive in terms of his skating ability. I think his skating ability is a little bit underrated. It got critiqued early on in the process. But yeah, I think he has all the makings of a 70-ish point, 2-way, maybe not Selke level, but maybe get some Selke votes. I'm very high on Caleb Desnoyers. Again, I need to dive into these guys more. Now that the NHL playoffs are dwindling down, we'll be doing that. But right now, he's number 3 for me. He's number 3. Call me crazy. At number 4, though, I get back on track. Anton Frundell, beast season once he got back from injury. Started off a little bit slow, but 25 points in 29 games at the second-tier Swedish League. I would understand you having this guy second or maybe even first just based on what he showed the final 2 to 3 months of the season against grown men. I believe it was the highest points per game mark in a draft year in the second tier of Swedish. 6'1", already 200 pounds. out-muscling grown men. Like, this guy could potentially, like, when you're talking about NHL-ready players next year, there's an argument that Frundell is the most NHL-ready, and I still think that he has a lot of skill, and the shot is very underrated from Frundell, that he's an easy top 5 guy for me right now. At number 5, I got James Hagen. Still, again, a very, very good prospect, and arguably could have the highest ceiling out of any of these forwards. Just a little concerning in his draft year, only 34 points in 34 games. Not saying that's disastrous, still point per game, but only 9 goals after such an impressive draft year -1, especially goal scoring wise. He was far better last year. So I'm a little bit concerned. You saw when come World Juniors later on in the tournament, as well as the NCAA playoffs, kind of got pushed off the puck, kind of played a little bit small because he does have kind of a small frame at around 5'10", 165, 175 pounds, 170 pounds. So that's a little bit concerning. There's still elite vision, playmaking, passing, but I just didn't see enough, especially playing with Ryan Leonard and Gabe Perreault, for that to not translate into high-level production. I'm a little bit concerned, and I'm going to hate having, if the Islanders hopefully jump to the top 2, that's going to be tough telling Islanders fans, like, maybe pick Misa or Schaefer. Don't take the hometown kid. But I would still love to have James Hagen at the end of the day. Still a very, very good prospect that could, if everything goes right, he could be a point-per-game #1 center. If not, a second-line center that's more so just purely offensive, 50, 55 points, it's possible. It's possible any of these guys could be underwhelming. Don't get me wrong. It's not like this is a bona fide top 5. But, yeah, that's where I'm at on Hagen's right now. At number 6, give me Porter Martone. Has slipped a little bit because of serious skating concerns. Big boy, physical boy. He needs to be a little bit more physical, in my opinion, but around 2 points per game this year in the OHL. 98 points. Monster season after last year having 71 in 60 games, including 33 goals. Yeah, he is just a prototypical power forward. I think if you give him a center that is a better skater, that is a solid playmaker, I think it could be 30 goals, 40 assists, 70 points. But in terms of driving his own line, I kind of have some concerns given that skating. But yeah, if you get him at 6th, 7th, 8th overall, you're pretty damn happy, especially if you have that #1 center in place. At number 7, and kind of finishing off like this tier, I'm going with Jake OBrien. He has been rising of late, and rightfully so. What this guy has done this season has been so impressive. 98 points in 66 games this year in the OHL after being the OHL Rookie of the Year last year. Similarly to Hagen's, elite patience, elite vision. The skating isn't quite there to the level that you maybe would expect, as well as the shooting is maybe a little bit of a weakness, but he's 6'2", 170 pounds, and he definitely needs to put on some weight, bulk up, but definitely the skill is there for Jake OBrien to potentially be one of the best forwards in this draft, and I would bet on the high-end potential of a Jake OBrien than maybe some of the other guys that are coming later that definitely have a higher floor, if that makes sense. At number 8, one of my favorite prospects, Kashan Anderson, monster. I have him at number 8. It's going to be a lot higher than you see other people have him. 26 goals, 59 points this season as a defenseman in the OHL, and he is just going to be one of the most fun players to watch in the NHL. He absolutely runs over guys. Great defensively, on well as being such a good goal scorer. So he's definitely more of a high floor guy, especially given the fact that he has a September 21st birthday, meaning that if he was born a week earlier, he'd be a 2024 draftee. But I just love the pace, intensity, and defensive ability, physicality that Atchison brings to the table. I don't expect him to be a 20-goal, 60-point #1 defenseman in the NHL, but I think when you draft him, you're getting a high-end second-pair guy or a low-end good top-pair guy. I think his floor is going to be an okay second-pair guy, just considering how much of a monster he is out there in terms of energy and physicality. At number 9, kind of more of a high-ceiling guy, I got Radim Murka, the 6'6" right-handed defenseman prospect. Did not do much in Czechia. I believe he had like 1 point in 10 games. Comes over to the WHL, 35 points in 43 games. Definitely needs to work out some of the kinks defensively. Could be more physical, especially at his size. But being that productive at that size, you look at someone like Shimashev that went 6th overall back in 2023, who had like no offensive game for the most part. I'm very intrigued by Radim Murka. Going to be a project a couple years in the WHL and then eventually to the AHL. But if you hit on a guy like this, you probably really, really hit. And if I'm a team that's looking for a long shot, I think Radim Murka is potentially worthy of a top 10 pick. At number 10, back to a guy that has a very high floor, Victor Ecklan, 31 points in 42 second-tier Swedish League games this year, playing alongside Anton Frundell. Highly, highly productive. Only 5'10". He plays like he's 6'2", 6'3". He's a beast, especially on the boards, and has a lot of skill. Needs to bulk up a little bit, only like 172 right now. I think that he's going to be 50 to 65 point good second liner, I think, is probably a good projection for him. And again, very physical for his size, has a high floor. Not sure he has the high skill or skating ability to be a kind of elite first liner in the NHL, but especially in this draft, if you get him at 10th overall, you're pretty damn happy. At 11th overall, 11th best prospect, I got Roger McQueen. The back just kind of scares me a little bit too much. Missed significant time this year, only ended up playing 17 games and only scoring 10 goals, 10 assists for 20 points. 6'5", 6'6". The potential is definitely there. If he didn't have any injuries and had a good draft year, I could see you having him top 6, top 5. But yeah, based on what we saw with Caden Lindstrom last year that I was very high on, then he doesn't play at all this season. Not saying that's going to happen to McQueen, but with these bigger guys, back injuries is a huge red flag. So I'm a little bit hesitant on Roger McQueen. I would still take a chance on him. Then again, those guys that we're going to talk about later, 17 through 30. But yeah, I think Roger McQueen, it's a little bit too much risk for me to justify a top 10 pick at this point. At number 12, and kind of the last one within this tier, I got Jackson Smith, 6'3" defenseman, moves very good, solid defensively, could potentially end up being a top pair guy. 54 points in 68 games this season, has all the tools, needs to be a little bit consistent, needs to be coached up, but if you hit on him, you potentially could really hit on him. Next up, we got Justin Carbona, big year in the QMJHL this season, 46 goals, 43 assists, 89 points in 62 games. A damn good skater in terms of high-end offensive potential with this guy. It's decently off the charts, and he is pretty physical at 6'1". I could see him potentially going top 10. If you need a high-end winger, I think Carbona's a pretty decent shout. 14th, we got Lynden Lakovich, another big boy, 6'4", 195 pounds. This year on like a brutal Moose Jaw team, still was highly productive, 27 goals, 31 assists, 58 points in 47 games. I could also see him going top 10, just given that blend of size, physicality. He got much more physical as the season progressed. In skill, very intriguing prospect. 15th, give me Carter Bear. He would have been like 8th through 12th for me if he didn't tear his Achilles. That is a serious injury. Something similar happened to Peyton Krebs a couple years back, and he just never really recovered in terms of his development and fell in the draft. But before that injury, he had 40 goals, 42 assists, 82 points in 56 games with the Everett Silvertips, was by far their best player on one of the best teams in the WHL, the team that Landon DuPont plays for. Extremely twitchy player, very high hockey IQ. Again, it's just scary with the torn Achilles, how he's going to be able to rehab from that. A team might get a decent steal in the late teens, but I can't quite put him in that 8 to 12 range compared to some of the guys that I really like and don't really have big health concerns. Roger McQueen has a health concern, but he has an insane frame and potential. At 16th, we kind of go down another tier, but we have a prospect that I really like, but I admit that he's not nearly as good as the couple guys ahead of him. I got Milton Gastrin here, 6'2" Swedish center. Talk about it a lot with these Swedish centers. High IQ, damn good defensively, highly productive right now at the U18s World Championships. He just screams like a good two-way second-line center, unlike maybe the stereotype with Swedish centers that they're kind of soft. He's a pretty physical guy. He uses his frame, and I think that a team will get a decent steal. He's probably not going to go until the 20s, but I'm very high on him at this point. 17th, get back to more of a conventional pick. I got Ben Kindle here, 99 points in 65 games this year. He is 5'10". As a result, he might fall a decent amount, but I think that the skill and the skating ability is definitely going to make up for potential lack of size, and he's not like that small. There's another guy we're going to talk about later that kind of is a little bit smaller, but 5'10", you could make it work with this guy's skill. We've seen it time and time again. You bet on the skill. You don't bet just because he's small. You don't bet against that. Number 18, I got Cole Reshny, another guy killing it at U18s right now. 92 points in 62 games this year. Not a ton of goals, but one of the best playmakers in this draft. I could definitely see him as like a 50-ish point second liner for a team. Get him in the late lottery, early 20s or something like that. At 19th, I have Brady Martin. Brady Martin is one of the most interesting prospects in this draft. He absolutely beats the shit out of people. He is a hitting menace. Cam Robinson said that like a scout told him that he would be one of the best hitters in the NHL right now. And he's not even like 6'3", 6'4". He's like 6 foot or 6'1". And he still does have some skill and goal scoring ability. 33 goals, 39 assists, 72 points in 57 games this year. A very high floor guy. I think worst case scenario, he'll be like a Walmart Brady Kachuk within your middle six, give you 40 to 45 points and 200 hits a year or something like that. So I think he's a guy that could potentially go very, very high. guy. I just don't think I'd rather bet on the guys that are more skilled than say the skill and physicality of Brady Martin. 20th, Sasha Boychuk. He just set, I believe, the all-time record for defensemen at the U18s, and I'm not overreacting huge to that. I did like what I saw, especially within the Frozen Four in terms of him on Boston University. Not the most gaudy point totals because he played with Cole Hudson. By the way, go check out the Cole Hudson interview, and Tom Willander, but he's an extremely smooth skater. He was the youngest player in college hockey this season. I would definitely bet on the abilities in terms of his skating and defensive capabilities, even if the point totals weren't exactly there this season. I think he's a very intriguing prospect, 6'2", so young. Take a shot on him. Ivan Riabkin at 21, total wild card. I'm still betting on the skill that he displayed in prior seasons. Last year had one of the most productive MHL seasons. When he's on, when he actually gives a shit, which that's his big concern, the motor. Sometimes he looks absolutely lackadaisical, but when he's on, he's genuinely a no doubt top 15 prospect in this draft, and he has rebounded nicely in the USHL, 31 points in 27 games, 12 of those being goals. So yeah, if you believe in your system and you believe in your coaches to get the most out of him, that could be an absolute steal. But yeah, considering what happened at the start of the season, it is a little bit concerning. At 22nd, give me Braden Coots, a guy that I like a lot. Definitely more of a high floor guy. I don't think that he has potential to be like an elite top sixer, but I think he's either going to be a good second line center or a low end solid two-way second line center. U18s has been very productive, 5 goals, 5 assists for 10 points. I compare him to like Constantinius of last year, but I think Constantinius was much better. Like he's a Walmart Constantinius, but yeah, just a good kid, good two-way game. He's already the captain of his WHL team at such a young age. 63 points in 60 games, so there still is some offense there. But I think he's a guy that's going to rise a lot within the draft process and already has. 23rd, give me Cameron Reed. Kind of just like your typical solid offensive defenseman, skates well, solid playmaker, okay in terms of defense because he is such a good skater. 54 points in 67 games, 6 foot. Not going to be a home run pick, but I think he can be an effective second pair, maybe second power play kind of guy. So 23rd, that's pretty solid. 24th, I'm still believing in William Moore. I believe the tools are there for William Moore, although it hasn't really translated into production for the U.S. National Team Development Program. This is like their worst squad in like decades. It is pretty underwhelming. So at 6'2", he can be physical at times, similar to Riabkin, but not to the same degree. It's going to come down to the motor. Can he be consistent? But I still think that the skills and the tools are definitely there for William Moore, and I'd personally use a late first-round pick on him. At 25th, Cameron Schmidt, we referenced him when we were talking about Ben Kindle, but he's only 5'7", 5'8". He does have 40 goals on the season, 78 points. He's not to the level of like a Caulfield or DeBrincat in terms of what they did in their draft years, the skills that they brought to the table, but he's a hard-nosed guy. He's not afraid to get physical. Definitely would take a flyer on him in the late first in terms of potential beast offensive. If he really hits his potential, he could be a power play specialist, 60 to 65 point guy, but he also could just not cut it at the NHL level if his skating isn't quite to the level that we expect it to be. At number 26, I have Malcolm Spence. On the opposite, high floor, middle six guy, should have an 8 to 10 year career within somebody's third line, second line. Did not really take steps offensively this year. Last year was just below point per game. This year, 73 points in 65 games. Great motor, though. The reverse Ivan Riabkin. He is an absolute dog out there. And I think that this is definitely more so of a pick of a contender that maybe needs a guy that's NHL ready relatively soon and can make a difference. At 26th overall, I have Colin Potter having a damn good U18s right now for Team USA, was voted as their best player. And at ASU this season, 22 points in 35 games, very skilled and fast guy. Speedy and skilled is definitely the MO for Colin Potter. And I think he's going to rise, especially after this performance at U18s. 28th, I got another American, Blake Fidler, but he plays in the WHL, 6'4", right-handed defenseman, big boy, while still having some solid offense, 33 points. I think he can be a solid second pair shutdown guy with a good offensive defenseman next to him and be pretty effective. 28th as my prospect. And then into our final two, I have Jack Merta at 29th. He was arguably the best U.S. developmental program forward this season, ahead of a guy like William Moore with 41 points in 40 games. He's like 5'11", and what I like about him is just a beast athlete, probably the best athlete on that U.S. national team. He just pushes the tempo, pushes the pace, and he has an August 22nd birthday, so he's one of the youngest guys in this draft alongside Matthew Schaefer, while some other guys are 10, 11 months older than him. So I think that he'd be a solid scoop dip late. And then lastly, at number 30, I have Logan Hensor. He's definitely fallen off a lot in his draft year after being so good for the U.S. national team. Wisconsin sucked this year, so I think that there is some justification why his point total wasn't quite there, clicking at like 0.33 points per game. But yeah, right-handed defenseman, does a lot of things at a solid to good level, if that makes sense. Like nothing really pops, but I think he can be an effective two-way, solid second pair guy, if not very good third pair guy. I don't think that what we were talking about before the season, him versus Schaefer, definitely some of his holes or flaws or weaknesses in his game definitely got exposed at the college level, but still can be a very good player and have a decently long NHL career. But that's it. That's the full top 30. I am tired. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about this ranking? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? Am I asinine for having Denoyer third, Atchison eighth? It's definitely some controversial picks within that. I'll be seeing the next one. Peace.